Even though it's believed that crime doesn't pay, several rich mafias have stated something different. While most end up dead or in jail, some fortunate families get to spend their money. The most affluent mafia families have had long journeys with money and crime, and we're here to tell you about them. Hey HERELUXers, HERELUXLIFE welcomes you back to another thrilling and luxury-filled video. If you're new here, welcome to the dosage of super fun and compelling videos that ooze with extravagance. Here are the wealthiest mafia families ever. Number 5. Maranzano Bonano Family. The Bonano crime family dominated organized crime activities in New York City and the United States as part of the criminal phenomenon known as the American Mafia. The family was known as the Maranzano crime family until its founder Salvatore Maranzano was murdered in 1931. Joseph Bonano was awarded most of Maranzano's operations. Under the leadership of Bonano between the 1930s and 60s, the family was one of the most powerful in the country. However, in the early 1960s, Bonano attempted to overthrow several leaders of the commission but failed. Bonano had disappeared from 1964 to 1966, ensuring the Bonanno War that lasted until 1968 when Bonano retired to Arizona. Between 1976 and 1981, the family was infiltrated by an FBI agent calling himself Donnie Brasco, becoming the first of the New York families to be kicked off the commission. The family only recovered in the 1990s under Joseph Massino. By the dawn of the new millennium, he was back on the commission and was the most powerful family in New York. However, in the early 2000s, a rash of convictions culminated in Massino himself becoming a government informant, the first boss of one of the 5 families in New York City to do so. The Bonano family was seen as the most brutal of the 5 families during the 20th century. Number 4. Perfossi Colombo Family. The Colombo crime family is the youngest of the 5 families that dominates organized crime activities in New York City, United States, within the nationwide criminal organization known as the American Mafia. During Lucky Lucianos' organization of the American Mafia after the Castellammarese War and the assassinations of Giuseppe, Joe the Boss Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano, the gang run by Joseph Profaci was recognized as the Perfossi crime family. The family traces its roots to a bootlegging gang formed by Joseph Profaci in 1928. Perfossi would rule his family without interruption or challenge until the late 1950s. 3 internal wars have torn the family. The first war took place during the 1950s when Capo Joe Gallo revolted against Perfossi, but it lost momentum in the early 1960s when Gallo was arrested and Perfossi died of cancer. The family was not reunited until the early 1960s under Joseph Colombo. In 1971, the Second Family War began after Gallo's release from prison and Colombo's shooting. Colombo supporters, led by Carmen Persico, won the Second War after exiling the remaining Gallo crew to the Genovese Family in 1975. The family would then enjoy over 15 years of peace under Persico and a string of acting bosses. Number 3. Mangano Gambino Family. The Gambino crime family is one of the most dangerous nationwide criminal phenomenons known as the American Mafia. The group, which went through 5 bosses between 1910 and 1957, is named after Carlo Gambino, boss of the family at the McClellan hearings in 1963, when the structure of organized crime first gained public attention. The group's operations extend from New York and the eastern seaboard to California. Its illicit activities include labor and construction racketeering, gambling, loan sharking, extortion, money laundering, prostitution, fraud, hijacking, and fencing. The family was one of the 5 families founded in New York after the Castellammarese War of 1931. For most of the next quarter century, it was a minor player in organized crime. During this time, its most prominent member was its underboss Albert Anastasia, who rose to infamy as the operating head of the underworld's enforcement arm Murder Inc. Number 2. Genovese Luciano Family. The Genovese crime family is also one of the 5 families that dominated organized crime activities in New York City and New Jersey as part of the American Mafia. They have generally maintained a varying degree of influence over many smaller mob families outside New York, including ties with the Philadelphia, Patriarcha, and Buffalo crime families. The current family was run by Charles Lucky Luciano and was known as the Luciano crime family from 1931 to 1957, when it was renamed after boss Vito Genovese. Originally in control of the waterfront on the west side of Manhattan and the Fulton Fish Market, the family was run for years by the Oddfather, Vincent the Chin Gigani, who feigned insanity by shuffling unshaven through New York's Greenwich Village wearing a tattered bathrobe and muttering to himself incoherently to avoid prosecution. The Genovese family is the oldest and the largest of the 5 families. Finding new ways to make money in the 21st century, the family took advantage of lax due diligence by banks during the housing bubble with a wave of mortgage frauds. Number 1. Gogliano Lucasy family. The family originated in the early 1920s, with Gaetano Reina serving as boss until his murder in 1930. It was taken over by Tommy Gogliano during the Castellammarese War and led by him until he died in 1951. Known as the Gogliano crime family under Gogliano, the family kept their activities low-key, with their efforts concentrated in the Bronx, Manhattan, and New Jersey. Members refer to the organization as Lucasy Borgata. The meaning of Borgata is mafia slang for a criminal gang, which itself is derived from a Sicilian word meaning close-knit community. The next boss was Tommy Lucasy, who served as Gogliano's underboss for over 20 years, who turned the family around to become one of the most powerful families to sit on the commission. Lucasy teamed up with Gambino crime family boss Carlo Gambino to control organized crime in New York City. Lucasy had a strong hold on the garment industry in New York and controlled many crime rackets for his family. When Lucasy died of a brain tumor in 1967, Carmen Tremonti controlled the family for a brief time. He was arrested in 1973 for funding a significant heroin network and died 5 years later. Anthony Corallo then gained control of the family. Corallo was very secretive and soon became one of the most influential members of the commission. He was arrested and convicted in the famous commission case of 1986. So now you know about the wealthiest mafia families ever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you're subscribed to HERELUXLIFE, and if you haven't yet, then do so now, or else you'll miss out on more of our incredible videos. Stay tuned for more exciting luxury-filled videos on HERELUXLIFE.